Folks, we'll start in just a second. We're trying to figure out the seating situation. All right. Good evening. This slightly delayed meeting of the Manheim Township School Board is now called to order. Welcome to everyone here in person in this room, packed in tight, and also welcome to those joining us online. In addition to the live stream, both audio and video are being recorded. Nurture and challenge for success is our district's mission. It serves as a reminder of our intent to enable every Manheim Township student to learn, grow, and thrive. Now please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Now, it had been my intention to get us started right on time because we have a jam-packed agenda for this facilities meeting tonight. So we're going to do our best to get through a lot of exciting updates with a tremendous amount of information that we think is important for this board to hear and for the community to hear as well. So I appreciate this significant attendance this evening. I also want to, before we start, acknowledge our newly improved setup here in our boardroom. I want to thank particularly Mr. Lyons and his team for all the work, and our facilities team in particular, all the work that went into improving the access to information, the sight lines, and the visuals here in our room tonight. So thank you, Mr. Lyons, and everyone else on your team for making that happen. Also, we'll start into our announcements. Members of our community are encouraged to participate in board meetings in person or to view them online. In support of both transparency and community engagement, recordings of meetings can now also be watched afterwards on the district's YouTube channel. The Board of School Directors met in executive session on December 10th and December 18th, 2025, to discuss confidential personnel matters, including the terms and conditions of employment of current and prospective employees. No deliberations occurred. In addition, the board will meet this evening in an executive session immediately following this meeting solely for the receipt of information from our attorneys. No deliberations will occur. And now I have one final announcement this evening. We are saddened to say that this evening is Mr. Tom Koch's last Facilities Committee meeting. After 23 years of service to Manheim Township School District, Tom Koch, our plant manager, will be retiring at the end of January, and what a legacy he leaves behind. Tom joined the school district in 2001 after spending 11 years at Pequay Valley School District, returning to his home district where his children attended school. Over the years, Tom has become known as a proud advocate for students, a steady leader, and someone who truly bleeds Township blue. As he looks forward to retirement, Tom is excited to slow down, enjoy life's simple moments, watch the first snowfall of winter from the comfort of his home with a coffee in hand. No alarm clock, I'm sure. No plowing required. And I'll say, Tom, funny story, just if you'll forgive me for a moment. When I moved here from Pittsburgh many years ago, little did I know that I was buying Tom Koch's house. And then when I was elected to school board and met Tom again, it was a little bit of a blast from the past. So, Tom, if you have free time, you want to help me with some projects around the house, you come on over anytime. So please join me in thanking Tom for your incredible service to this community. Thank you. Happy retirement. Now we are on to item 2 on our agenda. We're going to start with our friends from RLPS to give us an update on Nittrower Elementary School priorities and goals with focus group results and preliminary options. Welcome.
So good evening. Thank you for having us back here again. Just a quick update. I'm Chris Linke from RLPS Architects.
I'm Justin Hartthread with RLPS Architects.
And Eddie Bladen from RLPS Architects.
We also have Steve Gergley from Harbor Engineering. He's back there in the corner. Not intentionally in a bad way. He's just back there. He's not facing the corner.
Are you okay?
We were here back in December 4th, and we talked about the facility condition at Nittrower. So as discussed at that meeting, we're back here today again. Our outline for today's discussion is to talk about the engagement that we've done. Specifically, we are going to focus on the focus groups and the surveys. And then we're going to talk about, through our process, a number of priorities that we have developed for Nittrower. So we'll do a brief overview of that, and then we're going to move into options. And we'll say it a couple times. This is a process. We don't have the final options. We just want to show you where we are to date, and we're going to continue to evolve them as we go. Any questions with that? Okay, with our engagement, we had 4 focus groups and 2 surveys put out. The surveys went to the school board and the community, and we have focus groups with the 4 groups that we had on that list. Tonight, we're going to do a brief overview of the results of the survey. Tomorrow, Dr. Peyton Hefty's email or update to the board, you'll get the full report from those groups. So tonight is just a quick high overview of the results that we got. So overview, 217 individuals participated overall in the focus groups and the surveys. As we talked about, 4 focus group, 2 surveys, and this happened through November and December of 2025. And previously reviewed the groups that we discussed with or talked to during this process. Overall takeaways when you get into the specifics of the building. Overall takeaways when we say, what commonality between all the groups. The gymnasium is the best function in the existing niche route. It's a large, full-size gym that you have over there, so that works well for you. Something to improve on, and this came from all the groups: the parking, the car and bus drop-off and pickup, and the confusion and the backups that causes. That needs to be fixed. And talking about the building itself, lighting and building envelope improvements kind of were consistent across the board. When we talk about lighting, I think Nitrower is your only school that has the old fluorescent lights and that not have the LED upgrades that your other buildings have. For the leadership group, we had 9 participants. Some of the high flyers in that discussion is they value the community feel and interaction of Nitrower. We talked about this over and over again, welcoming the community and making them part of that. That's just not just Manheim Township, that's a future ready initiative that the school district has, and a directive that we've been given and is in our priorities list. As always, that building, the last update really goes back to 1989. So education has changed. So update the building to support education as it is today, where you want to go for the next 20 years. And another consistent one through a number of the groups is improving the air quality in the building. The existing mechanical system has limited ability to address the air quality of the building. As we go forward, that will change. PTO, there was 4 participants from the PTO. And similar to the last one, the most school spaces and support spaces are not functioning properly and need improvement, whether it's old, it's crowded, or just not functioning in how you educate today. Part of that also is future ready is flexible spaces outside the typical classroom, and spaces that can transform to meet how you're going to educate into the future. They would like to see that. The PTO would like an auditorium that would hold the entire student body. Right now, I think that auditorium holds 223, maybe about half of the students that you have there. Again, coming back to providing clean air and water is important to them. Educator and staff takeaways. With that focus group, we had 11 participants. Similar thought on this, most appropriately functioning support space was the main lobby. In 2010, you updated that to be a secure entrance that you have to come into the building, you have to go into the main lobby. So there's 2 points of safety before you get into the building. That is something nice, a safe, secure portion of the building that they like. The least appropriately functioning space is the auditorium, and I think the auditorium, because it's small enough and it can't get the whole student body in there at the same time. Then they kind of dug down into some of the specifics. Magnetic whiteboard, projectors, some of the equipment that they use day in and day out that they want the latest and greatest for how they want to teach. And then consistently resolving the HVAC and plumbing issues are important. Student takeaways. So we had 20 participants of students, not currently in the building, but that were in middle school and had gone through Nitrower. We also combined that with a number of students that may have gone to other schools to give kind of perspective to some of the comments. So with that group, lighting was ranked as an element to address. Again, I think we go back to the fluorescent fixtures. And you got to understand, those students are now in your middle school, in one of your recently renovated buildings, so they're going to see light beyond Nitrower, I would say. As we always understand that the most important part of your schools are your teachers and your staff. As much as we like our buildings, we know the teachers and staff are most important and have the most impact on the students. Again, with these students also being at the middle school, talking about comfortable chairs, making schools larger, they were used to dealing with the space they have and making it work, but knowing they seen the light on the other side and there's other things to be had. We also did a survey with the school board. We had 9 participants, so we had full participation from the school board. So a couple items there. Top responses when they're talking about describing the tower, dated or outdated. Obviously, when you walk through, you can see that. The same thing with collaborative spaces, adding collaborative spaces and the future-ready learning pieces to it. The other part of that is having a clear direction. Coming out of this study, having a clear direction of how to go forward. So I think we'll talk a little bit about some tools that we have tonight for that. So also had a community survey. So we had 164 participants in that. So coming from the community was welcoming was their description as they talked about Ned Trower. So having that community feel, that community involvement, and they are welcomed in as part of your school, I think was pretty important, pretty phenomenal. Most value, again, comes to the teachers and staff, followed by the community feel at the school, solving space issues, updating the building infrastructure, and addressing traffic where items mentioned to be improved. All similar things kind of throughout all of your groups. So at a high level, again, those were the comments. You will get the full report and you will get all comments. So one of the things that we like to do when we do the surveys is also dig into the one-off. Sometimes there's one-off good comments that spark ideas on how we can improve the school. So when we are back here in February, we'll do a little bit more discussion about that at that time. So priorities, through the meetings that we've had, through the building tours that we've had, through the evaluation of the existing building, we continue to develop a list of priorities of what's important to the school district and what needs to be maintained or what needs to be improved and where we want to go in the future. And we use a form called the Moscow method. Not a popular name, but it's called the Moscow method. So we take your priorities and then we put them into different categories. So it's the must have, should have, could have, and won't have. And this list is constantly evolving because we're constantly having conversations and engagement with you and the teachers and discussions about the options. So it's an evolving list. But the important thing about this list, and we just talked about that you want to have a clear direction you go at the end. We are going to have a rubric or a matrix at the end that evaluate the different options and of your priorities, how many do these different options solve? So help you get there to make a decision with that. So with the must-have, we're not going to spend a lot of time talking about all of them, but we just wanted to hit some of the priorities and some of the high flyers in the different priorities. So under the must-have, keeping the neighborhood elementary school or that community elementary school was consistent along the way. Address the aging infrastructure. Address the educational approach for the future, how you want to teach in that building for the next 20 years. Make sure we have flexibility in that building to address growth and new ideas as they come up. Collaboration and flexible spaces outside the classroom, other opportunities for learning within the building. Under the should have, we talked about that revised traffic pattern. That really should almost be a must because that came up in under every one of the focus groups and surveys. Under the should have, when you come up with options, you want to discuss about the disruption to the students that are in the building whenever you're doing whatever project it is. So to minimize that and continue with having a community responsive building, that community is actually part of the building and welcomed into the building. Under the could haves, talked about keeping the existing auditorium and gymnasium. Is there a way to do that in one of the options or two of the options, and what does that mean? Pros and cons. And then under the won't have, We don't want to say, well, we've always done it that way. We are trying to look at a building that's going to take you 20 or 30 years into the future. So we don't want to be stuck in old thoughts, but new thoughts on how to go forward. In addition to just the priorities, we have a number of goals. We're not going to go through them, but they're kind of a secondary or tertiary items that when you get into the details of the options, we will use them to weigh the review of those options. So there's a number that we developed along the way. But now we're going to move into the options that we are currently looking at for the project or for solutions to the concerns that we see at those buildings. So as we go through these options, it's okay to ask questions along the way. And again, these aren't final options. These are in process, and we will talk about our next steps at that point. Just high level, the base options, the status quo, is just fixing the existing building in place. We're not really going to review that tonight. I think that's self-explanatory. We're going to look at two options for additions and renovations, and then we're going to look at an option for a new building.
All right. Thank you, Chris. I have the pleasure and opportunity to discuss the first two options with you, which are both additions and renovations options. And like Chris said, these are all options worth considering today, but I guarantee you what the plans we look at tonight, they won't be your final plan. Good pieces of each of these options probably will work into whatever decision you make moving forward. But that's just important to keep in mind. They're just lines on paper right now, looking at adjacencies, looking at ways to correct challenges that you have with your current facility and take it into that future-ready aspect. So just a site aerial, everybody's probably familiar with 222 and Oregon Pike and the district's property right there shown in green. Going on to the, yeah, I'm sorry. Absolutely.
I know I walked away from the microphone, but just high level, like you said, to the northwest, Oregon Pike, and those commercial buildings along that side of the property. To the northeast is the church, and then Worthington behind that. To the southeast is Lancaster Bible College, and then southwest is the Crooked Oak neighborhood. So
absolutely,
just put it in context.
Thank you, Chris. And so, as we look at this existing site, we want to move into just take a quick snapshot of that existing building, look at that building on the site, and then we are going to look at those addition and renovations options. So this is your existing Nittrower Elementary School. Moving plan left to right, we of course have the existing core facilities, cafeteria, gym, auditorium. We have some of the other shared academic spaces in the middle being your library, your art and music room, of course, that main entrance next to the kindergarten rooms and the main office, and then the three classroom wings on the right holding your grade level academic spaces. And what you'll see with the additions or renovations as we move forward is that those different academic wings are kind of altered or worked with differently in each of the schemes. And so just to, again, place ourselves on the existing site, this is Nittrower Elementary School, Ashbourne Avenue, Crooked Drive, Oregon Pike, and the yellow dashed line is the meets and bounds of the district property, if you will. And so option A starts to correct, as we look at your existing building, we discussed this maybe a little bit in December, and Chris touched on it with some of the survey results, but on the left-hand side of your screen, you have those large communal spaces, the gymnasium, the auditorium, cafeteria, completely on the opposite side of the site from your playground, your outdoor play areas, and those sorts of things. Adjacent to those large public spaces as well as gathering spaces for the academic day, you have some minimal parking and drop-off areas, currently, but not a lot. That those get filled up and impacted as you have larger events on the site. And so the first scheme looks at how we might be able to correct that. It considers something a little bit differently. So as we look at the option A, as we're calling it tonight, you'll see a revised floor plan. On the left-hand side, you'll still see some parking areas there and a bus drop-off with the existing auditorium, but you'll no longer see the gymnasium or the cafeteria on that side. That is replaced by a driveway, some additional parking, and a driveway going on Plan North back to the mechanical and service areas of the building. In the center part of the building, hopefully you still see some of those common academic areas, the learning commons, STEAM. We will zoom into a larger plan in a few slides. But some of those common academic areas with some grade level classrooms. And hopefully then to the right of those, you still see those 3 academic wings. But the big move on this particular concept is a new addition on the right-hand side of the existing building at the end of your existing academic wings. And that addition would house a new main entrance in the lower right-hand corner. The green shows you a new administration, nurse, and counseling area of the building. In the orange, adjacent across the main entrance, from the administration, you see a new gymnasium out front, and that's adjacent to some new parking and car drop-off in the lower left-hand corner of the site. It's also adjacent to a new playground and your play fields. Moving up, then Plan North from that, you have the cafeteria, kitchen, and new mechanical areas. So a lot of those common spaces for your children, as well as after-hours activities, are located on that side of the site now in this scheme, and kind of maybe more properly oriented to the other exterior amenities of your site. We'll just go on to the next slide briefly here, and then move into some enlargements of the plan. This slide shows that same site plan, but shows you what areas would receive renovations, as in new systems, new finishes, refreshing the existing building like new. That medium gradation of blue is the alterations, where we would be moving around walls, reconfiguring spaces to better support academic and other functions within the building. And then the dark blue, of course, are the new additions and the new construction on the building. So you can kind of see the general tenure of that as you go through that plan. So zooming in, this is just the floor plan in and of itself here on the screen. So your dark green are your academic classrooms. The light green are administrative function areas. And you hopefully can see, again, from left to right, the auditorium, academic areas of the building, and public areas on the right-hand side. That large, that yellow dashed line that comes down through the plan kind of indicates that demarcation between existing building on the left and new addition on the right. So that new addition, as we said, if we start in the lower right-hand corner of the plan, that's a new main entrance right at the new car rider and drop-off, and it really forms a main street, if you will, through the building. It provides circulation up through those common areas of the building for your students, but also for after-hours public functions, such as a meeting like this, or a game, or something occurring for the PTO in the cafeteria. With that main street, you'd have the opportunity at the end of the academic corridors to the left of that to close doors and segment those academic areas off. So now you have that a good, solid separation between after-hours public areas and then in academic areas for during the day. From top to bottom, we have the 3 academic wings, or neighborhoods, if you will. Starting down at the bottom of the plan, adjacent to the administration, you have those kindergarten areas, our little legs, if you will, close to the main entrance, near administration, near the gym, near the cafeteria, the spaces that they interact with a lot of the time. As you move up then through the rungs of the plan, you have second grade and third grade, the grade level learning neighborhoods. Those have 5 academic classrooms, a Spanish immersion classroom planned and programmed for those spaces, as well as the light blue large group instruction areas, LGIs, if you will. Next to those are SGIs, or small group instructional areas. So those are those flexible spaces within the plans. We've seen some as we've gone tours with some of you in other buildings. And those are the breakout spaces, if you will, outside of those academic classrooms that the students can interact with. To the left-hand side, then we see another corridor, kind of a secondary corridor through the building, highlighted in the teal color with the arrow. And that's really kind of a secondary learning corridor. It ties those kind of medium-range blue classrooms together, the learning support classrooms, so that services and pull-outs and push-ins for students are equitably located throughout the plan for your students to traverse throughout the day. And then to the left-hand side, there's other academic shared spaces for your students, STEAM and learning commons being adjacent to each other, also adjacent to the opportunity for an exterior outdoor space there with the outdoor classroom. And last but not least, down on the left-hand side, the auditorium, that existing auditorium, maintaining that for the school, but also as a district-level amenity space for various functions. And so that kind of takes you through the plan. One of the nice things just to highlight too, if you think about, Chris had touched on with priorities about phasing and thinking about how the construction impacts the existing building. With the new mechanical room up in the upper right-hand corner, that allows you to build that physical plan and then start to take other existing systems offline as you go through the existing building and renovate it. But that really kind of rounds out option A. And so we think about option A, and then B and C is kind of steps towards building a new building in option C. We see this as the first step. You're putting addition on the right-hand side of the existing building with option A. If we go to option B, then that takes a little bit, the additions and renovations, if you will, a little bit further. Very similar to A, with the two separate car drop-off and bus drop-off and parking areas. But now we have less of the indication of those academic wings. You no longer have those 3 bars of the academic wings in plan. That is replaced with a new 2-story classroom addition in the upper right-hand corner of the plan. And what this addition and renovations option considers is keeping those existing spaces, not just the auditorium, but that gymnasium, which is a great size, expanding the cafeteria, and of course renovating all the other interior spaces that are part of your existing building core. And so the building, by and large, is a like new building. What you won't see, though, is what we saw in the first scheme with option A. And option B, we don't really have the opportunity to solve those adjacencies, such as the gymnasium and the cafeteria with the play areas. We are proposing a playground on the north side of the plan, but your play fields, your open areas of the site are still to the east, if you will. So Oregon Pike, Crooked Drive, Ashburn Avenue there, and the overall site. Moving in, there's more additions, more new construction with this. Basically, option B, what it gives you is 100% new academic spaces with a lot of renovated shared and public amenity spaces within the building. And so those are the gradations as the concepts currently conceived. Moving into that plan, as I had said there a few moments ago, this is the first floor plan, but the upper right-hand corner has that 2-story academic wing. Allows us to kind of lay out those new academic spaces more towards a future-ready format, no longer a double-loaded corridor, but you have large group instructional spaces. You have the grade-level classrooms working together within a neighborhood, 2 grades on this floor and 2 grades on the floor above. And then as we move to the plan left, we see those renovated areas of the learning commons, art, music, gymnasium. You still have the administration and counseling up front. You do have the opportunity for an outdoor classroom and those expanded cafeteria spaces there in the upper left-hand corner. But while they're all the existing spaces, those shared areas would be like new within this after renovation. So this is kind of that next step towards a new building. But I think the next concept here that Justin will share.
And also
please, yeah.
And also the sequencing for the new addition there to be outside the footprint of the existing educational wings to prolong students being in those spaces, if needed, as long as possible prior to that work occurring.
So, thank you. So the lead up and the transfer, as my voice was running out, perfect time. I get choked up. Thank you.
So to continue with this one just a little bit, we're seeing really that corridor network develop within the building, showing where that primary main street is in 2 directions on this option. And then the secondary really being the blue within the academic area, just to show how kids are moving through the building. I think one observation we had after developing this is the proximity of students on the right-hand side to get over to some of those shared spaces is something to be studied a little bit further. But as Chris was quick to point out, this is really that under the hood showing you in process as we're developing these for consideration. I did want to pause there. Any comments on A or B before we move to the third option? All right. So part of diligently going through this process is not only what can be done with the existing building, renovations and additions, but also casting the vision for what does a new construction look like on the site? What constraints are we working around? And really, how are we solving more of those priorities, those must-haves and should-haves with a new construction building? So trying to show and test the site for what it looks like. In the middle of the site, we see the existing footprint for the nitrower, the 3 wings out to the right-hand side, and showing how this footprint is fully in the back of the site outside of the existing footprint. So thinking about sequencing of construction, minimizing the disruption to students, there's some real potential with this option to be considered. Similar to the color schemes as we looked at previously, that light green in the bottom is really that admin, so admin, counseling, nurse, really being in that first arrival head house position. So think about coming down Ashburn and looking at that. That would be your welcome to campus with that admin piece there. And we will zoom in similar to the other plans. Just to the right-hand side of the green admin would be the new cafeteria and kitchen and mechanical with access around the back there. The large orange box out front would be the new gym. Trying to get that as close not only to the academic areas, but also as close to the fields as possible, thinking for PE and after hours as well. And then if we draw a line across the top of the gym and look up on the plan, that's really where those core academic instructional spaces would occur, and trying to break those down into neighborhoods that are more conducive to our little learners. There it is without the footprint. So once this would sequence new construction, new site work, then we could demolish the old nitrower and replace that with ball fields that would be not only served by that new parking out front, new bus loop, new car loop, but also be a little bit closer to the public as well. I will say one more thing to mention on this site plan before we move into a closer zoomed in version. This allows us to develop the new cafeteria space and have those play areas directly outside of the cafeteria. So thinking about just the speed at which lunch has to happen. The students can be there, move outside, and then back into the building. So trying to maintain those adjacencies as best we can in laying out the site. We will see in the top left-hand corner also potentially a little pocket of play area for the littlest learners, pre-K and K. Maybe there's a remote play area for them as well. Looking at a second floor, so the primary instructional spaces would be stacked on 2 floors, and students would be distributed accordingly. And really, as we see in the site plan, they're focused around a courtyard space that's meant to really fill the plan with light, and we'll look at that in a little bit further detail here in a second. So over on the left-hand side, this would be the first floor plan, second floor plan on the right-hand side. Really broad brushes here, trying to locate more of those public spaces as we have in prior plans, really to the plan south. So thinking about after hours, weekend use of your facility, and making sure that we can really secure off the instructional spaces just for ease of use. But really trying to break down the academic areas in ways that are really responsive to your littlest learners and neighborhoods, making sure that they feel that sense of community and camaraderie amongst themselves, but making sure that there's also a dynamic quality of those spaces that really casts that vision for the next, as Chris said, 15, 20, 30 years into the future. We are showing the potential for 2 main entries shown in the red arrows. So there'd be a primary entrance there at admin, obviously in the morning, and really being able to position the site and both of those loops focused on that central area. So think about both car drop-off and bus drop-off being there at the admin for the beginning of day. But also trying to use both the location of the gym and maybe also the location of the cafeteria for both before school and after school queuing of your students before they either get on the bus or are picked up for car riding. Zooming in just a little bit, really wanted to focus in on maybe some of the unique parts of the instructional spaces. So again, trying to break these down into learning communities, smaller groups where you're building that camaraderie with your students. But also, you may see a difference here from our previous plans where this is really blurring that line between circulation and flexible spaces, instructional spaces, breakout, and then showing the classrooms in the green on the outside. We have looked at some inspirational images and looked at a couple projects where there is that more blurring of the line between where are the kids circulating, where are they working, where are they engaged in projects, and how are those also still connected back to teachers for oversight in that passive supervision or active supervision. And so this is showing that option. So think about circulation happening around that central courtyard space, the light filling into some of those flexible working areas and the circulation pathways, and then ultimately having the classrooms positioned around the outside with good views as well. A couple more things to talk about on this main floor. Within and really at the heart of the learning communities up here is the Learning Commons in your STEAM lab, as well as counseling. This kind of teases out that idea of maybe counseling, we start to see that filter even in elementary school out into the building, so it's maybe less tied with admin. So there's the disciplinary aspect and there's the counseling aspect. So can we decouple those and maybe serve the students better? But I think the priority here is also to show the Learning Commons and STEAM Lab working together, having that access to the outdoor space, that courtyard, for really just the enjoyment and also really the instructional potential that happens to take your STEAM Lab outside, run an experiment, etc. But making sure that we tether that Learning Commons and STEM Lab together across the program there. Second floor is very similar to the first floor. And on that lower edge, starting to show more LGIs dotted in there, learning supports, and making sure that we have those equitable access throughout the plan for your learners. So this is, as the previous options had, 5 classrooms plus showing a Spanish immersion classroom and learning support and at least 1 or 2 SGIs per grade level. And so as we see, three pods on both levels, it's K1, 2, and then 3, 4. Stacking. Then we were showing also the pre-K and envisions on the first floor for the after hours as well. And a quick massing study, so we can start to see what it would feel like to be on the site with the shadow of existing niche tower in the foreground and the new construction in the background. And zoom in just a little bit. So off the left-hand side, 2 stories of academic, having that gym in the middle, and then the admin, and finishing that corner with cafeteria and kitchen.
So just a couple follow-ups on that. So next steps, a couple things we want to talk about. On the 14th of January, we have a town hall meeting at Detroit Elementary. Just a quick overview of what that town hall meeting looks like. From 5:30 to 6:30 will be tours of the building. We expect to have a tour at 5:30 and another tour at 6, so about half hour to get through that. We will have the boards of the options up in the auditorium at that time, and then we will do a presentation from 6:30 to 7:30. The presentation will cover a little bit of what we talked about the last time about the condition of the existing facility. We will review the options, but then the intent really is to open it up to the public for questions and comments. So if it goes 7:30, goes 8, whatever it is, that's what the process is. Other steps that we are working on as we're going along, we have program verification going on of all the spaces that you saw in the elementary school. The administration is going back and verifying those pieces. But the idea is that we are coming back on February 5th to show you options, cost estimates, and what our recommendation is, along with the steering committee. Depending on the responses and the questions and comments, we revise that and come back February 19th to have a board meeting, review the options, a recommendation, and hopefully a vote at that time. I know that was like a lot of information. So, any questions at this point?
Well, that was tremendous and a lot of information. Any of my colleagues have questions or thoughts? Mrs. Sense?
It's tiny in the scheme of all of this information, but I did notice in each of them, if you're going to include a space for envisions, it ought to be with access in what you would consider the after hours time, so that people can come and go, the children can be easily dismissed from that. So tucking it back further into the building, I saw one of the options.
Right.
Not as good, but a small thing at this point.
But it's a good comment, and we had a review with the steering committee today, and we're making revisions to all those options that you saw. But that was one of the ones that we picked up, and it's a good point. And just to get into the details, what we really have talked about is putting the envisions next to the gymnasium, and what would be a stage most of the time, but could be separated off and be its own classroom at the same time, which should have easy access to the outside and pick up and drop off.
Okay, Mr. McKenna.
Thank you for this really exciting options. For any of the scenarios, was there a look at integrating the campus with the Worthington neighborhood? There are many families with children in that neighborhood. Is that topographic?
And that was part of it. There is a pathway that comes up from Worthington, goes right by the edge of the site. That in all of our options, by the end, we will be showing a connection to that walkway into the building, the front building sidewalk process.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. Rivera.
Just a quick clarification. For in options A and B, the size of the auditorium doesn't change, correct? It's still the same.
In that one, we were just keeping it as is.
Okay.
And in the new option, we didn't have an auditorium in the new option, but we had a discussion on that today, putting a stage on the gymnasium and making the gymnasium a gymatorium, so to speak, that it could function as a gymnasium or an auditorium and get the whole student body in at one time.
Ms. Zimmerman, and then Mrs. Hens.
Is now an appropriate time to ask you about capacity and how this would account for any student population growth, or is that next time?
I'll say yes, but I'll get into the details next time because that can be a complicated, a long-winded answer.
Mr. Rivera's question just made me think, in the land, if we're talking a new build, would we be keeping the size of the gym since we do have such a large?
The gym is, the size of the gym you have right now is a very nice sized gym. I think it gets a little bit bigger so we can incorporate some bleachers in there. I don't think you have bleachers in the existing gym, but we're trying to get like 3 rows of bleachers for viewing of some of the sports activities and other events that happen in there. And that can also help out with an auditorium setup.
Dr. McCardle.
Thank you. This might be a nitpicky thing too, but I was just thinking on one of the, I think it was option A, you discussed how you're keeping kinder close to the to the front. On the new option, kinder is on the second floor. So I just thought that is there going to be elevators?
Yeah, we got hit up on that today. We know that's not a popular process there. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I noticed that too. So thank you. Or maybe that was a test to see if we were paying attention and we passed. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, very good Easter egg for that.
Any other questions from my colleagues? I just had one procedural question about the open house next week. Are we going to be recording those questions and answers from that Q&A session that maybe we could publish somewhere so folks who might not have been able to attend?
That has often happened, that you have somebody there recording them, and depending on what the answers are, what answers are given then or answers are given later, whatever the conversation is, record them. So I know it's being taped.
Okay.
So making some minutes out of that could happen also.
Yeah, if it's being recorded, maybe we could even just post it. I'm not sure of the logistics of that, but I think that's something we should think about, particularly given this is a relatively tight timeline. Obviously there's urgency on dealing with, I think, some of the challenges we're seeing in Nitro Hour, and we're excited about moving forward on this project. I want to make sure the public has the opportunity to wrap their arms around this and get questions before us. Make sure that their comments are heard. So,
and again, this is a study. We are trying to give you a direction for a solution. There's a lot more work to come through a design to work out a lot of little bugs as you go along.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Regarding public engagement, this is probably a question more for Ms. Davidson or Dr. Pete Hefty. Can you just share how this the town hall has been communicated with the district, just to ensure that folks are aware that this is happening and how they can be a part of it?
Okay.
Hi, thanks, Ms. Zimmerman and the board. I'd be happy to share how we've shared this so far with our families and the community about the upcoming Nitrower Elementary Town Hall meeting. The district, we used a multi-level, different type of multi-channel approach to ensure information is accessible, timely, and consistent. I did want to thank Ms. Robbins and also Sarah Ryan as well, because we worked together on making sure that information was placed in the survey about the town hall meeting. So we did use our district website. We have a dedicated section on our district website under important announcements called Nitrower Elementary Update. That included, this page served as a central hub for project information and currently includes details about the town hall meeting and the RLPS feasibility study survey link. We had all of those housed there. In addition, we had a direct email to our Nitrower families. That email was sent to our families on December 4th, sharing the survey link, followed by a reminder email on the 15th to encourage participation by the 18th. Upon completing the survey for our community and for our Nitrower families, they were directed to a thank you page that referenced the town hall meeting and our district website as well. We also were on district social media. Information was shared across our Facebook pages on December 4th and the 15th, and then just recently again yesterday, including direct links to the feasibility study survey and the website with the town hall details. And then yesterday we had a flyer that was posted in regards to the town hall information. We have printed flyers that are posted at Nitrower Elementary School in the lobby area, which is more parent facing. So they were able to see that as they were coming in. There was a PTO meeting 2 nights ago, and Principal Schroeder had also shared that information with PTO so they could put that out in their district blast. In addition, we sent a flyer directly to Nitrower families via Seesaw, so Mr. Schroeder did that. Building newsletters, our principals are sharing out through their building newsletters tomorrow, and that's all district-wide principals and buildings, so they have that flyer as well with that information. And then we have an ongoing social media outreach that we'll be doing on Monday and Wednesday as a reminder. Okay. Sure, you're welcome.
Any other questions on this matter? Okay. All right, then we are on to item B, the history of the campus master plan. Back to you, Mr. Lickey.
We love a captive audience, so we'll continue here. We were last here in front of the board to discuss the campus master plan on October 23rd, and 2 directions coming out of that was, one, getting you, the board, up to speed on the history of the campus master plan. What ground have you covered to get here? The second part of that was to also dig into the program that has been developed to this point, and go back to the administration group, Mr. Hollenbach, and discuss that and get some more information on that. So we had a meeting with the steering committee today, Mr. Hollenbach, to talk about the program. He's coming back with additional information on that we'll provide the next time. But the real focus of this meeting is to talk about the history of the campus master plan. Probably became a bigger endeavor than what we thought, but first I want to say thank you to Mr. Hollenbach for digging up information. I have a ream of paper that documents all the ground that has been covered and the work that has been put into it to this time. So we're going to go back about 3 years to November of 2022. That was shortly after Mr. Hollenbach was hired. He got into discussions about the campus, the athletic facilities. He was approached by alumni, boosters, and parents concerned about the different conditions of different parts of your athletic facilities. So that's kind of where that process started. At that time, being new to the district, he was meeting with sports coaches and seeing what their wants and needs were at that point. A lot of that discussion was focused around Journey Field lights and ADA access to Journey Field, the softball field and some Title IX issues, stadium upgrades, and the press box. That's where it all started. And it quickly mushroomed, we'll say, when you kind of got into it. So there was a concern as they were talking about each individual ones, were they getting tunnel vision? So there was a desire to step back and make sure you had a holistic vision of your athletic facilities at that point. So in February of 2023, the school district hired Remington and Vernick engineers to do a study, not just of your athletic facilities, of your whole district, all of your buildings, to do an evaluation of the condition of your buildings at that time. So from February through August, they were out here, walked all the buildings, walked all the sites, and came up with a report that was presented back to the board at that point. So at that point, it was a district-wide facility assessment. For the athletic facilities, there was multiple athletic facility upgrades that were recommended at that point. And they categorized them as, what are your immediate needs? That was focused around some Title IX issues. What are your short-term needs? And then what are your long-term needs? Again, to all of your buildings, but we are focusing on the athletic facility at this time. One of the first projects that came out of it, just getting out of that report, was lights for the varsity softball field. So that was approved near the August of 2023. So after that, then the school district had the report and had some direction on some of those items. So the next steps were to, what do we do with that information? And again, Mr. Hollenbach got involved, started having meetings with the athletic department, with the different sports that are using it. And part of that process was starting out with the report that you had, meeting with all of those users that are listed up there to get started. And again, it started growing. Your needs started growing. So what the school district did at that point was enlisted JPD architects to look at this. Interesting enough, JPD architects had developed some preliminary concepts in 2010 on the upgrade of some of the athletic facilities. That was what was done in 2010 was like a new field house. I think they called it an ecoplex. That was developed, and the idea was this was all going to be built through donations and fundraising. So that's where part of the starting point was. The other part of that information was the recommendations that came from the RVE report. So as they developed that, I think they quickly realized the needs, that this was getting beyond a donations or fundraising process, that there were significant issues cost-wise beyond that. So the school district stepped back again and developed an RFP to do a campus master plan that was based on capital projects. It wasn't going to be a fundraising effort. It was going to be something that the school district was going to fund mostly or partially at that point. That RFP that they developed, there was a phase one that included softball, baseball, Landis Run improvements, and a maintenance garage. And then there was phase two that dealt with the parking lot adjacent to NEF, Journey Field, stadium improvements, and at that point also included an indoor practice facility. So in earnest, MM Architects was hired, and they got started in October of 2024, and they worked for 8 months until June of 2025. And during that time, they had 17 study group meetings, 2 school board meetings, 2 facility committee meetings, and they also had a community involvement process that was both a survey, and they had a forum where they had people come in and make comments on the plans and the boards. Also, other athletic facilities were visited at that time. Like we went and visited other buildings for Nichauer. Warwick was the official visit, but Mr. Hollenbach, what he does, he sees facilities all over Lancaster League and beyond, and he came back with other information at that point. So in June of 2025, some projects that kind of came out of that first step where softball and baseball irrigation was approved, track resurfacing was approved, and lights for the Journey Field were approved. In addition to that, phase 2 was approved. So phase 2 included the new maintenance garage and the demo of the existing maintenance garage and the parking and access to Landis Run Intermediate. That project is ongoing and going through approval process as we speak. So the other part of that was what was developed on the campus master plan. There were some variances in the zoning that we had to seek. So there was 2 meetings. There was a meeting in June of this past summer. It was like an initial meeting, and then there was a follow-up meeting in July. At that point, the variance was denied. There was there was some changes on the hearing board at Manheim Township. The people at that second meeting didn't feel like they had enough information, so we were coming back with additional information. But at that point, it was put on hold. I would also say between the first and second meeting, the indoor practice facility was taken off the list and the proposal was brought back without that indoor practice facility. You had a zoning hearing meeting on your maintenance garage since then, and that has been approved and it's ongoing. But for the campus master plan, that has been parked at this point. In October of 2025, then we were hired to complete the phase 3 of this master plan piece, which includes the stadium, journey field, and both baseball and softball field improvements. And that's where we are today. Again, I know that's a lot of information in a short period of time, and what I just reviewed doesn't do justice to all the work that has been done to this point, but I think understanding the steps to how you got here are important. So, any questions with that review?
Ms. Woodbury.
I just would like to make a comment. This is a tremendous amount of information and detail, and you've done an amazing job of giving us context, information, detail, and big picture. I'm thrilled, and I just wanted you to know that this is very helpful for board members who've been on that are halfway through a 4-year term, and I hope for folks that are newer than that. So thanks for bringing it all together for us.
Absolutely.
And I'm glad so many people are here to hear it too. So what a great time to have a packed room. Thank you.
So next steps, again, Mr. Hollenbach is going back and doing some program verification that we had discussed earlier. We'll be coming back to this committee March 5th with updated plans, options, and renderings of what we're proposing. If that goes well, we can revise it. We will be back March 19th to get in front of the board meeting to get a recommendation and approval. If that goes ahead, March 19th, April and May, we will be back in front of the Manheim Township Zoning Hearing Board. Continue that process. That's it.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Lakey. Any other questions from that last slide? All right, I see Mr. Holland back there in the lobby, so thank you for all your work and helping put this together, Mr. Hollenbeck. And thank you, Mr. Linke.
Thank you.
Okay. We are on to item C, our HealthWorks Clinic update from Mrs. Robbins and Miss Ward. Thank you. Welcome.
Good evening. We are pleased to present an update on the Manheim Township School District HealthWorks Clinic. As we look at our primary financial challenges, health insurance remains a significant cost driver for our school district. In the 24-25 fiscal year, our spend reached $10.3 million, which makes up 8.4% of our entire budget. This underscores the necessity of proactive solutions for cost containment like this clinic. Beyond the clinic, we have also successfully introduced a variety of other programs aimed at managing rising costs, including Price MD, RX and Go, and the OSS Concierge Health. The HealthWorks Clinic was built at the Bucher District Office location due to specific zoning requirements and serves as a cornerstone of our proactive solution strategy. While we won't see immediate cost savings in our overall healthcare spend, we are confident that after a full plan year with the clinic in place, there will be resulting cost savings and cost containment. Our healthcare plan does run calendar years, so January 1 through December 31. Following a full year of data, we are committed to transparency and the provision of financial data to the board to evaluate its impact. In the meantime, the clinic is proving to be a premier benefit that is essential for both employee recruitment and retention. By offering same-day primary health care, on-site medications, and professional counseling, we are providing our staff with a level of convenience and care that they have described as a game changer. Tonight we will walk you through information including utilization trends provided by Penn Medicine, along with positive feedback we have received from our staff during the first several months of operation. I will now turn things over to Ms. Ford to provide the update.
Good evening. The first slide this evening is just an overview of the HealthWorks clinic and the offerings. I will spare you reading this to you, but essentially the clinic is a primary care or an urgent care facility. You can think of it that way. We've had a lot of employees who there's an option, of course, to make our provider your primary care provider, and so that way she's able to prescribe medications and engage in those additional benefits for staff. I've had the experience where sometimes you go to the doctor and you get a result or you have a test done and you don't ever hear back. The beautiful thing about this clinic is you can actually message the provider and they'll read the results and share that with you. So it really has been something very unique that does not exist in normal settings. All of our employees are immediately enrolled in the program when they join our benefit plan. So we have 679 employees who are eligible, who are enrolled in the program. Thus far, we've had 823 total primary care visits to the clinic. As you can see in the chart there, the patient visits have steadily climbed each month, and that is great news to see. In addition to the data from month to month, something else that the clinic did that they actually brought to us was that they wanted to do a flu clinic for our staff. So we opened that up to all staff members, and they had flu clinics beginning in September all the way through mid-October, and then they also had a clinic all day on November 4th at the high school. They did do about 200 shots with those flu clinics. The next slide shows you the timing of the visits. The clinic was very thrilled with the timing of the visits to see that it spans across the day. So to them, that shows that people are able to utilize the clinic throughout the day. I would tell you that the 6 a.m. time frame, that is likely virtual visits because they don't actually open until 7 or 7:30. So there are a lot of virtual visits, and also people engage via that Spruce app. So that really is, that in and of itself is a bit of a game changer because you can oftentimes really engage in back and forth with the clinicians in order to have your problem solved eventually, literally through the app. So that's a great benefit as well. 12 p.m. is their lunch, so that's why that's reduced. The next slide shows you days of the week. So you can see, again, that's fairly steady. Friday is the least amount of hours that the clinic is open, so I think that makes sense that that is the day with the least number of visits, but you can see Tuesdays and Wednesdays are very similar, but again, there's a steady flow through the clinic throughout the week. And there are a couple of virtual visits or other sites. It's worth mentioning that although our clinic is exclusive to our employees, they are also able to use all 7 of the other HealthWorks clinics throughout the county. So there are individuals who sometimes might visit a clinic because it's closer to home or more convenient for them. Unique patients, this simply means that these are all individuals. So this is a graph of where our patients are coming from. So grateful to see that the high school is the top ranking building because that's obviously our biggest building. Would love to see Landis Run inserted in here somewhere in the future because they're obviously our 3rd largest building. District office in Bucher makes sense since we're right here. But again, this just shows you utilization across the district. We do know that they have had over 300 patients visit the clinics. That's about half, which is good. I think we have a lot of folks who, they have their own doctor and established practice, so until they need the urgent care, that's when they first visit the clinic. But great that we're at least 50% there at this point. Next, this is our counseling. So the reason that we became an exclusive clinic was because we wanted to provide free counseling to our staff. So this is really something that was very important to us to be able to offer this service. So you can see the metrics over the last 6 months that they have also increased over the time that the clinic has been open. In order to engage with the counselor, an individual simply needs a referral from the provider. That can also be done over the Spruce app. And I am aware that there are times that people are simply visiting with the provider and she will, through a conversation, say, hey, I think it would be great for you to visit the counselor. So again, that has served as a really great benefit for our staff. You can see that September was our busiest month and Tuesday is the busiest day. Obviously, a lot of folks are coming between 3 and 7. And in addition, I'll go to the next slide here so you can see our counselor, Emily. Her strategy for counseling is it's intended to be limited time counseling. So it's not intended to be your counselor forever. It's intended to you come in for an issue and she works through that issue with you for, on average, about 10 sessions. And then certainly you can go back if there's something new that you wish to discuss. Emily, I know she is able to adjust her calendar that if people would rather do a Zoom meeting, most people want to come in person, but she's open to that. She also works in some of the other HealthWorks locations, so folks can go at later hours when she's at Rockledge or other places as well. The one thing that I think I did not expect with our counselor is that, you know, when we have tragedies or circumstances that are really difficult here in the district, she has been a tremendous resource to say, hey, is there something that we can send to our principals, to our staff to try to support them? And that just wasn't something that I would have expected before we actually had her here, but that's been a really additional, wonderful additional benefit for us to be able to utilize her in those circumstances as well. Next is the specialty referrals, just so you can see that Penn Medicine is not keeping all of this in-house. So they are farming out specialty services. A lot of that is gastroenterology, obviously. And you can see the other metrics there for the specialty services that they are pushing out for staff. I will say to you that something that is unique with the clinic is I know when I was recommended to a specialty, this has never happened to me, they called me. Because the clinic reached out to them to make that contact. So again, that's the power of this clinic, that they make it pretty difficult for you to not continue your own care, and that's something that I think is helpful for our busy staff members as well. Next is the Spruce app engagement. So this shows you that at least half of our staff have downloaded the app, so that's great. We would love for everyone to, but again, I think some folks aren't using that until they need to. And we have 37% who are actually utilizing that app. As I shared with all of you, you know, there's an ability to take a picture of something and send it to the provider and be diagnosed through that exchange such that you can then just go pick up medicine at the clinic. So that's, again, been a really powerful tool for communication. And you can see that they've had 11,245 messages as of November 30th, and their response rate is less than 15 minutes, and that's a 98%. All right, this is the competitive slide. So this is a comparison of Manheim Township versus the other HealthWorks clinics, and what they're seeing with our patients versus their other clinic practices. So you can see that Manheim Township is doing better in almost every category except clinic visits, which, you know, is not a bad thing. But for screenings, which is great, we want to see that our staff are taking care of themselves and getting their preventative care. And then last but not least, these are just some quotes from staff members about the impact of the clinic. So I'll read you some of these. These are unsolicited emails that have come through simply to say that, you know, thank you for doing this. So had the opportunity to use the HealthWorks clinic, wanted to share what a positive experiences it has been. Great communication, got a text message this morning as follow-up. During the appointment, I never felt rushed. Provider took her time, gathered appropriate information, and began to learn and understand me as a person. This is a great benefit for our district. Wanted to send a quick thank you for all the work you and your team put into this new facility. I've been really impressed with the space, care, and support thus far as a mom of 3. This has made my life easier, and I know that was the point on your end. The new clinic, I just wanted to reach out to say how amazing it is. I started utilizing pretty much every service over the summer, and I'm still continuing to use it. The staff is absolutely incredible, efficient, convenient, and knowledgeable, compassionate. I'm personally so thankful that we have it available to us, and I have been really hyping it up to my colleagues. The facility is game changer, one of the best non-monetary benefits we have as a district, and the clinic exceeded my expectations. I feel fortunate that we have this available. So I think, the proof is in the reactions that we're seeing from our staff members, that I know that they're appreciating this and that they're having the opportunity to engage in healthcare in a way that they haven't before. And then from our provider, I just felt this was important, or we felt this was important to share. Over and over again, I feel so lucky to be here getting the chance to meet all of the amazing people that work for the school district. It feels like a whole new appreciation for humanity, connecting with people, and making a real difference. This work gives me so much purpose, and getting this kind of feedback, I shared something with her, just fills my heart. I hope that you're so proud of all the work that you did to make this happen. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Our provider is an extraordinarily kind human being, and it's really lovely to be able to share positive feedback when we receive it, to say thank you back to her. I think these are just some pictures of the clinic. If folks haven't been able to visit or haven't seen it yet, we do have artwork throughout the clinic that was designed by our own children. And it's really just it's a space that I hope when people go there, they feel like, oh, this is Manheim Township. I know here, being in the district office, getting to interact with their staff, it does feel like they're a part of our community, and that was a big piece of the point of putting this clinic in a space that would be amongst our schools, period, that there would be that opportunity to interact with folks. I am happy to answer any questions or go back to any of the data that was just shared.
What a presentation. Wow. I mean, I know when we were considering this and you brought this before us, I mean, we had a vision for it, and it sure seems like it's meeting that. So I'm so thrilled to hear that. Are there questions from our colleagues? I'm going to go first, Ms. Lamb.
I'm just curious to hear why some school buildings have not used these services. Like you mentioned, Landis Run. Are there limitations due to location or hours? Has there been an opportunity to ask them?
Sure. So it's not that they haven't used the clinic. Those were just the top 5 utilization areas. So I don't have any knowledge that we have any building that has not used it. In fact, I'm aware of Landis Run using it. I think it's simply, I would say to you, Landis Run's schedule is fairly difficult with the time children are there versus the time they have without children. So I think that's always a limitation for them. I do know that we have had a circumstance or two where there was difficulty for staff to be able to get out of the building to go, and so we have talked through that as a leadership team to say, hey, we want to make sure that our folks feel that they can get to the clinic when they need to. So we're working through that. Obviously, this is new and open, but we want to be able to make sure it's accessible to staff.
I also noticed Brecht and Nitrower. I just want to make sure there is an opportunity and accessibility for those.
Yes. Yes.
Right.
Yeah. I'm just going to go back to the slide with the hours just so you guys can see that too, because that's, I think, helpful. So, I mean, Tuesday is the day that they're here later, of course, but you can see that it would, for the elementary schools, it's probably either before or right after work that they would have the most accessibility, or between that 8 and 9 o'clock as well.
That's part of what I was wondering. And there were times I knew, I think part of what was pitched to us is you don't have to take a sick day and you can get coverage. I knew imagining that might be challenging in practice. So I'm glad to hear that we're committed to solving for that moving forward.
Sure. And it depends on the day, right? Depending on substitutes and that sort of thing. But I know that the principals work really hard to try to ensure that staff can utilize the clinic. And again, like I said, sometimes you can really take care of quite a bit if you utilize that app. So just trying to push that to folks that we should use the app.
Yes.
But it really can be a helpful, powerful tool if you are pressed on time.
Any other thoughts, questions? Mr. McKenna and then Dr. McCardle.
Thank you for having this vision, for this investment in the well-being of our staff. I'm curious, how will we integrate this into our employee engagement surveys, our open enrollment processes, so that we're collecting feedback in aggregate, not only the positives, which were really nicely presented here, but where are those friction points? As with any new initiative, you expect there to be some growth areas. So what's that process look moving forward, so we always kind of have our finger on the pulse of how well it's working and how we can continue to improve?
I think a lot of the data that we've been receiving is information that the HealthWorks Clinic obtains themselves through surveys, but certainly open to ideas of how we could collect that feedback generally from the larger staff, because you're right, that's absolutely important to see. Do we have barriers? Do we have situations where, the clinic isn't able to be utilized to its fullest extent? And obviously we would love to have all of our employees actually using it. So, you know, when I say there's 679, but there's only 300 who have been there, you know, we want to have folks use the clinic. I do think one piece of this is for some individuals, first of all, if they don't need the care, they're not going to go. And I do think there are folks who have relationships with their primary care provider, and we certainly are not trying to impact that. So I think some of that is manageable, some of that will come with time, but for sure, you know, I think we need to come up with a plan to make sure that we're getting that information from folks throughout the school year and as we move through this process, for sure. Yeah.
Thank you. I just wanted to say, as a physician, how grateful I am for this clinic and for all the work that has been done. The landscape of medicine has been changing, continues to change, and it can be very difficult for some people to obtain the care that they need, especially mental health services. So I just think it's fantastic that this district is working to keep our staff healthy and happy, and I just think it's really great, and I appreciate all the work everyone's done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Woodbury.
I was here when the U2 champions were coming to tell us and explain what this was all going to look like, and walked us through the understanding to making this a reality. It's been quite a journey, and so it's nice to see that it's really here and really helping our staff. Have we considered asking Penn Medicine about that lunch hour and see what they can do from a staffing perspective? Because it seems like that just might be an enhancement that maybe they can consider. I know it's hard if they have one provider, but if they have other locations, I'm not sure what they might be able to do if we asked, just because it seems like that could lessen a friction point of getting out and getting to it. Spruce app. Are the visits an actual video visit with your provider then on the Spruce app?
Not on the Spruce app. So on the Spruce app, you can share pictures. There are virtual visit options, so that could also occur. I know that has occurred with the provider, but Spruce is more, you know, if my eye is ridiculously red, that I'm taking a picture and sending that, and they're diagnosing it. So it's.
But you mentioned that you have virtual visits. That's how we got these 6 a.m. times. Well, I just want to tell you, as someone who spends their professional life, my full-time job is in making healthcare delivery better, and we have not solved it this well. And so, thank you. And I know it's a start, but I'm really, really thrilled. Thank you so much. I'm proud of what we're doing here. And recruitment and retention. Thank you for that innovation, because that's the innovation we heard about there too.
It helps, yes.
Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Woodbury. Any other thoughts or questions? Okay, Ms. Ward, Mrs. Robbins, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, next up, everyone get your tissues ready. Mr. Koch, presenting the multi-year plan. Looks like Mr. Charles is coming up too.
Wow, what a turnout for my last facility team meeting. Couldn't have asked for more. Thank you, everyone. Well, hello, everyone. Before our presenters go over their respective capital projects, I wanted to take a moment and just give a little lay of the land of what we'll be doing. For your information, the multi-year capital plan outlines the district's long-term capital needs. Thanks to the work of Donna Robbins, this plan has expanded from its start as a plant service maintenance plan to include safety and security, technology, food service, and C&I, giving the board and the public a more complete view of future planning. Tonight, department directors will provide high-level overviews of their proposed capital projects, and I will present the food service portion on behalf of Kelly Price. It is important to note that this is a planning document, and projects listed for future years may change. So tonight's focus is on the projects that we're recommending for 2026. This evening, the plan is being submitted for review and discussion only. At the January school board meeting, we will ask the board to acknowledge receipt of the updated plan and authorize departments to begin developing a request for proposals and bids. After this step, any project requiring board approval will be brought back for your review and discussion and vote. Please note that the spreadsheets for all of for the multi-year plan is in your board packet. And lastly, some projects are marked TBD. meaning to be determined. Where this is used is when the project is not fully developed, the scope of work has not been defined. If you were to ask Reese Lauer tonight for a budget estimate for each of the options, they would not be able to give that to you because there is so much more data that needs to be put into that, as well as getting school board uh, recommendations of where they should be proceeding with this. So I just wanted to make that fully clear. And with that being said, I'll turn it over to Zach Charles.
Good evening, everyone. As Tom said, I'm here to quickly go over the the facilities department capital improvement plan for the 26-27 school year. I'll be going over the bigger ticketed items that you may see on your spreadsheet. Any questions, please feel free to stop me. As I get started, you'll see some MEP contingencies listed, just so everyone's aware. MEP stands for mechanical, electrical, and plumbing upgrades. So, going through, I'll start at Ride and Ball. At Ride and Ball, we would like to get the parking lot repaved. Last summer, we did the walkways and the playground over there. We're at a budgeted price of $255,113 to repave the parking lot at Ride and Ball. Over at Landis Run, we'd like to upgrade all of the lighting to LED and our building automation controls to be upgraded as well. This would come at a budgeted cost of $1,375,284. Moving on to the high school, some of the bigger ticketed items at the high school for 26-27. We would like to replace a makeup air unit above the tech ed department. That was budgeted around $365,000. We'd like to have an MEP contingency to help for any emergency funds for an aging building, a building that's getting a little older, at $500,000. We'd like to upgrade the cafeteria seating at $500,000. Roof restoration, starting on the E wing and heading out towards the older parts of the school. For 26-27, the roof restoration budget came in around $1.5 million. And last but not least, Campus Master Plan Phase 2. Just to remind everyone what Phase 2 is, Phase 2 would be our maintenance shop and a food service area for them for storage and some offices, as well as expanding and improving the Landis Run Drive and parking, making that 3 lanes, adding more parking lots. And that came in at a budgeted price around $8,108,625. I'm going to pass it on to Michael to go over the security.
Thank you, Zach. I just have 3 items for this section. The first one is getting additional security cameras district-wide. That's going to be approximately $200,000 item. And then future outlook for when we have to do a refresh, you'll see that on item 2 and going for years out, just so we can be smart with it. And then the final one is window treatments. That's impact-resistant glass. What that can do is like help shield if somebody would fire weapons, try to break it down with anything like that. And we'll use that at strategic areas throughout the campus to make us better prepared for anything happens. And next, I'll pass it off to Dan.
Thank you. Just a couple items on the technology side. Want to draw your attention to the items under the general fund first. In this coming year, we're looking at projector replacement which may be projectors or may be additional tools. We're testing a few different items at the high school over the course of the second semester here in a couple of different classrooms. And so information will be coming out about that shortly there. But we expect that to total around $325,000. That's been budgeted for. It's been on the multi-year plan for a number of years. And as you can see, it cascades down each year. We replace a chunk of the building each year so that, number one, we don't have a huge number and then nothing the next year and have to worry about huge tax hikes and then tax drops from year to year. We can keep things pretty consistent, but also that way so that if there were to be a issue with something that we discover in the year 1 or 2 of a project, we aren't committed to experiencing that issue in 10 buildings. We're committed to dealing with it in a smaller scope there. So that's why we spread things out over several years there on that. And then under the capital reserve side, we do have a few items that are planned. The first one that I want to draw your attention to is on actually the first line, which is our district data center. The last time we replaced that was in the 2021 school year, and I have great news, which is that we actually hope to not need to replace it in the 26-27. We had originally budgeted to do that this past year. We don't need to replace it. We kicked it down the road. To have it this year. The reason we are hoping that we don't need to replace it is because we actually are still getting all the performance that we need out of it. There's still no end of life from the manufacturer date, so there's no reason that we have to at this time. And so we're happy to continue working with that product. The reason I thought it was important to put it on here, however, is that our infrastructure that runs in the data center is a platform known as VMware. VMware, at the time we purchased our current data center hardware, was owned by Dell. It has since been sold to Broadcom, and they have enacted many adverse licensing cost increases, not just to education customers, but to the entire VMware user base. So we have that on here in case the VMware licensing costs become untenable, in which case we would look to switch the entire platform to a different competing product. However, CAIU has worked out a statewide consortium pricing with Broadcom that should actually bring our VMware costs in line with just a small increase of where we used to be. And so we're very cautiously optimistic about that. But we included that on here, even though we hope to not do that project there. And that's my main thing for you there. Everything else that you see on there is generally a sustaining budget allocation, with one exception, which is the thing we'll talk about next, which is the possibility of replacing the high school PA system.
I have additional items for safety and security. The first one is security software that's budgeted at $85,000 annually. And the reason that that's on there is that's going to encompass our visitor access system, our emergency management system, and we're looking to increase that to include a Smart Pass, which we're currently piloting at the middle school, Landis Run, and high school, and as well as a badge alert, which the middle school is going to be getting trained and used hopefully by the end of the month for those alerting systems, so that way we can keep it. And we're trying to keep it all under a single use platform, so there's not a ton of different softwares, and it's all under the same platform. Next is remapping of the school buildings. So we're trying to do this in a GIS system, and the reason that this will be important is that we can then integrate our emergency management systems, and we can take it to the 911 call center, so that way when something happens, our maps can be readily available for law enforcement to do. So if something's happening, we'll have pinpoint locations, and they can go to the exact spot. Because like for high school, for instance, it's 422,000 square feet. It is a big building, so that way we can speed some of that process up for them. And then the last item is just showing that we're forecasting in the future that we're going to probably need to replace our radios district-wide, and we have about 350 radios total.
Okay, for 2026, the Food Service Department recommends two key capital purchases to ensure continued efficiency and service quality. Number one is the Neff serving line at $80,000. The existing unit was installed in 1996 and has reached the end of its useful life. Replacement parts are no longer available, making maintenance unsustainable. The recommendation is to replace the serving line in its entirety to ensure reliability. The second item is at Reidenbaugh. It's the freezer at $40,000. Reidenbaugh is currently a fully operating kitchen serving over 350 meals per day. The current refrigerator can only hold about 1 day's worth of food, limiting capacity and operational flexibility. The recommendation is to purchase a walk-in freezer unit to accommodate daily food volume and support kitchen operations. Now, if there's any questions on either the plant services side or the technology side, security, we also have, oh, I'm sorry. I almost forgot about Sharon. How could I do that? And now Sharon's up to the
Okay, curriculum. Can't forget that. We have some proposals over the next couple years. We'll be adopting a K-4 math program for next school year. So we're looking at an average range of about 510,000, and that will be for a 4 or 5 year program. So we're currently piloting 2 programs. We'll be coming to you in the near future with some data and a proposal. We also are looking, not next year, but the following year, as we look at our K-12 math programming, at need for any 9 through 12 math textbooks, including a focus on algebra. So what we do at the middle school, we want to look at that same course that we offer at the high school and the different materials that we might need to support our math programming 9 through 12. We continue to save yearly for our K-6 MyView reading program, or ELA program. So that's yearly saving, and then we'll be looking in 28-29 for the next 6 years. Again, we'll be going through the curriculum review cycle, looking at data, looking at student outcomes to evaluate that resource. We are excited about adopting a new data platform next year. We currently use a program that we're feeling doesn't have as many features as we would like it to have. So we're looking at 3 different data platforms, and we have staff engaged in evaluating those. So next year we'll be looking at a cost, the most expensive being about $125,000 yearly. We can get some discounts if we do 3-year subscription to certain programs, so that might vary depending on the platform that we choose. And then in support of our curriculum cycle, we have some textbooks for next year. We have a world language textbook. We're looking at new Spanish textbooks for grades 7 through 12 to support all of our Spanish courses. We have a new Foundations of Business course. We've never had a business textbook in years. So we are looking at a Foundations of Business textbook that you'll see a proposal for shortly, as well as an updated psychology book for our social studies department. Thank you. Well, I guess we'll take any questions. There you go.
Okay, that was a lot. I know I have a couple questions, but I see Mr. Rivera looking for the microphone. Go first.
What is the data platform you're looking to replace?
Okay, we're looking to replace EdInsight. Is there some happiness? See, there was a little audience. We need something that our teachers at their fingertips can look at data and not have to search too hard, and the integration of data. And that's what a new platform will give us more ease with that.
No coincidence that the teacher on the board asked that question, I imagine. Yes. Any other questions, Mr. McKenna?
Thank you. I know a lot of people put a lot of time into this. It is quite comprehensive. I think also it's arguably overwhelming. This is a very large outlay of funding from 3 sources. I think something that would be helpful for me, and I imagine for my colleagues, is how we can make better sense of this expansive menu of investments. What is the prioritization criteria by functional area that helps us understand what were the key filters that we use to inform something making it on the list or not? And then within that, okay, these are the ones, not unlike the Moscow framework that was presented by our LPS, like which are the ones that we absolutely have to do, which ones are the nice to have, and which ones can we find alternate means. Optimally, we'd be able to do it all, but we also have to be very careful from a fiscal standpoint. And certainly we also need to understand from a sequencing standpoint which ones are going to be urgent. And I think my hesitation is if there's a green light at the meeting in a few weeks to pursue quotes and gather the additional data, then things start coming back to us in a piecemeal fashion, which makes it harder for us to keep tabs on the holistic plan and how each of these fit, and how we're ensuring that that prioritization framework is always being accounted for. So if there would be an opportunity to get a little more a narrative around a framework that I'm describing, I think that would be particularly helpful.
Thanks, Mr. Rickett. I think that might be something maybe Mrs. Robbins, you and I, and Dr. Pate Hefty, and can work on together to try to present that information. Because I understand your feedback. I don't think that's a question necessarily for Dr. Schaefer or the other people up there, but certainly understand that. Do you have anything to share on that, Mrs. Robbins, or we can just put a pin in that until we come up with maybe we can find some time to work offline and present that later. Does that make sense? Okay. Any other thoughts or questions? Oh, Miss Lamb, sorry.
Yeah, this actually, I wanted to build off of that, off of what Mr. McKenna said. There's like TBD placed strategically for some buildings for certain years. And similar to what Mr. McKenna was saying, there's not an explanation. So at some point, can we eventually get an idea of what we're expecting? I'm sure there's some sort of reason why it's placed on certain years, and kind of like the question on priorities, what's coming up and why is it TBD on like year 4 at Brett and year 3 at NAF? Just some sort of clarity behind that.
Yeah, I'll just put that in the same bucket. And I think, again, we're not going to be voting on this until later in the month, so we do have some time to schedule meetings. Did you just raise your hand, Mr. Robbins? Oh, okay. So, yeah, I think we do have some time to dig in to hopefully get your questions answered. I'll say, Mr. Charles, I had a specific question for you. Was you mentioned first, I believe right at the top, the air replacement unit, I think it was.
Makeup air unit.
Was that because of the fire that occurred?
No, this is just a unit that's well beyond its useful years.
Okay.
That is failing.
Okay, because I wasn't sure if that was like an insurance issue or anything. Or okay, so
At useful life.
got it. Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Bolzar.
Just to add to that bucket you're filling up over there. First, I'd like to say thank you for providing an Excel file this year or this time. That's very helpful. And I just want to go to, this is called a multi-year plan, but we talk about a multi-year plan with focus on the very front years. Well, the true value of the multi-year plan is looking at what all the numbers are, right? So when we look at TBD, they're not impossible to put a number in. The error bars may be high. They might be 50%, but to really see what the cumulative investment potential for the district is, the spreadsheet loses so much of its value without putting some attempt at it. But for instance, you could look at Nitrower and say, hey, well, I'm going to, what are some ranges? And I did this in the spreadsheet from the first time we got this and put a range on, well, what if I build a new school? It's not like we don't have history. We built a middle school, so you can put some number in there. I'm sure we have numbers from our architects who say, like, hey, if you do a renovation like this and other projects, so you put some at least placeholder numbers in there that the cumulative can build up. When I did it up the last time it was there, putting some of those numbers in and with the initial numbers in on the first master plan, over the next 5+ years, there could be $200 million being spent in the district. Well, that looks a lot different than $32 million that sits down on the bottom in 10 years now. So it looks like, we have modest investments, but we are going to be investing a ton of money. And so any one of these things that need to be vetted have to be vetted against the total. And so I just strongly recommend the TBDs be filled in with the best estimate we have at the time, knowing that it could, it's going to be a ballpark.
Mr. Bolzar, congratulations. You just got invited to the working group to work on improving this process.
I would like to retract everything I just said.
No, in all seriousness, I mean, I know this is a tremendous amount of work that goes into putting this document together, and I think, what I'm hearing is the board's interest in understanding this and making sure that we can support these efforts and understand them as best as we can. And so I think we have a clear action item of building some subset of this team to tackle this moving forward. And I'm looking at that side of the room. So I look forward to working on that. Go ahead, Mr. Bolzar.
And I would like to say, I know it's not easy. Look, I mean, I live doing the capital budgets and things where I work now, where I have been, so I understand the difficult nature of trying to take big projects, put numbers to them. So I appreciate everything that's here, and there's a ton of detail here, so it's great. It's just like that next little bit, will really take this plan and make it of the highest value it could be, as we're going to be making significant decisions on spend, coming up over the next couple of years.
Thank you. Any other questions or thoughts? Mrs. Hens?
So this document is one that we get every year. And the idea is that we see that there's planning so that we don't all of a sudden run into, oh, that thing's been sitting there making noise for years. Or, oh, now it has to be replaced all of a sudden. We've planned ahead and we know that something's coming to its end of life. It has to be done before it's an emergency. We do the regular paving. We do the regular roofing. That's the overall purpose of this plan and always has been. To Mr. Koch's, Mr. Koch has this all in his head. I keep saying to him year after year, now you're writing these things down. He knows how old every carpet is and how old every roof is and how old every water fountain is. So I just want to kind of remind everyone that he has done a wonderful job of keeping this all in front of us year after year after year and anticipating before we have emergencies. And that's greatly appreciated. That really saves us in the budgeting process. And for the sake of the community listeners, parts of this will come from savings and parts of this come from already budgeted items, so that everyone knows all of this is not something we're going to be borrowing, since we're looking ahead at a large borrowing coming up, that these are projects that are either already budgeted or the money is there within our savings, and that's why we have it. So I just wanted to clarify that.
That was incredibly helpful. Thank you, Mrs. Huntz. Any other thoughts or questions? Okay, Mr. Dietz, Mr. Lyons, Mr. Charles, Dr. Schaefer, Mr. Koch, thank you very much. And Mrs. Robbins, too. Okay, we are on then to our last presentation of the evening, our PCCD grant proposal from Mr. Lyons and Mr. Dietz.
Yes, good evening. Give me 1 second. I'm going to just switch the live stream over to show the presentation. All right. Thank you. We wanted to bring this evening, but we also wanted to relate it to the multi-year plan. This is actually a project that we've been looking at in fits and starts over the last two school years. It started a little over 2 years ago when there was an issue with the current PA system with ringing bells and whatnot. It wasn't a system that I had put in, and it was my first opportunity to kind of peel back a lot of the layers of the onion of what was going on. It's one of those things where when you're new and you're orienting yourself, you hear this is a priority, and you try to prioritize all of the priorities, and this was never one of the ones that was brought to me. But then when we had that issue and we set about solving it, it became clear that this needed to be prioritized, but we needed to do it in a way that could be planned for, budgeted for, in the context of all the other repairs. We also couldn't make a decision in isolation and put one thing in the high school, one thing in the middle school, one thing in every other building in the long term, which is where we currently are with all of our platforms being slightly different, none of them talking to each other. So we wanted to really take our time, make sure that we were looking at this from a unified perspective across the whole district, as well as making sure that we were meeting the needs of the high school and its uniqueness from its size and the number of different demographics that it serves, from outside groups renting it to internal groups to athletic teams to our day-to-day classroom instruction lives. So, in looking at this, we are kind of giving some historical context and background information. So, our current system, the oldest components in that are over 30 years old. I couldn't tell you exactly how old they are, but they're over 30 years old. And the newest ones date back to when the high school renovation took place in the years 2006 through 2008. The two biggest priorities that we see, two biggest shortcomings that we see, are a lack of integration options for voice over IP and emergency management. So if we were to have an alert triggered in the emergency management system, there would be no automated way to get that into the PA system. So somebody would have to trigger it in the emergency management system and then get on the PA and communicate that. And the lack of integration with the voice over IP is that we do have some limited capability to use any voice over IP phone. So it's not like they have to stand at a single microphone to reach the PA system, but we don't have a lot of options for like pre-recorded messages or to be able to schedule something to just make a phone call in and have it happen. And then, as with any aging system, it becomes increasingly difficult to repair or replace components when they go bad on that. So the other two things are that the signal chain is entirely analog. I used the little Frankenstein stereo diagram that you see there because there's literally a volume knob that they turn up and turn down if they need to make the PA system louder on there. And then it does one of the limitations of it. We don't really think of it as a limitation, but it only does audio broadcast. There is no ability to display visual alerts or colors or flashing lights or scrolling text. So as we think about what the goals of a replacement project should be, we want to convert from an analog system to an IP-based system. So as opposed to every single speaker in the building being wired back through a copper speaker cable into a giant amplifier, each individual speaker would be its own network device that plugs into one of our network switches for that. So that's what we mean by an IP-based system. We would want to move the control of all of that from an on-premise amplifier, master clock, tone generator, to a cloud-based platform that does all of that via software. We want to, as I mentioned in my introduction, we want to establish a common functionality across all of our facilities so that if we can meet all of the needs of the high school, we can probably meet all of the needs of our smallest elementary school in terms of zones and bell schedules and all of those things, but we want to make sure that we can have a platform that will serve all of our facilities. So we have a common knowledge base. If a principal needs to, if a principal experiences a family emergency and they're going to be out and another one needs to go cover that building, they should know how to use the PA system. And then as the things that I mentioned as two of our biggest priorities right now, we want to integrate seamlessly with our voice over IP platform as well as our emergency management software that Mr. Dietz has been pursuing. And then we want to improve our ability to repair and replace components if they have a problem at a lower cost than what we're currently experiencing. So to give some idea of what exactly we're talking about there's just a few visuals here. So the biggest thing that would see to the average person walking through a building is they would see an enhanced speaker endpoint. So as opposed to just a round or a square speaker grill on the wall or in the ceiling, you would have something that looks like these two items here. These are made by a company called Atlas IED, but we won't necessarily get that exact item, but they are two that we really like. You may have seen these in the IU13 Conference Center. So what we like about these is it's accessible to the hearing impaired. There's the ability to scroll text, to flash the lights, to change the color. So if that screen goes red because there's a fire drill, you're going to be able to read, this is a fire drill, or this is an actual fire, or this is a lockdown drill, or this is an actual evacuation. So we'll bring more accessibility to those users who have physical differences. We want to have the ability to utilize silent alerts. Again, that's scrolling text. So if we did have an emergency situation and we didn't want to broadcast like, everybody go to the cafeteria, we could say, in scrolling text, everybody please report to the cafeteria, or everybody please leave through the nearest exit, etc. We would have individual volume control over each individual speaker. So you could have speakers in the cafeteria be louder than speakers in a classroom, speakers in the hallway be louder than those in a classroom, etc. And then we could have color coding on that screen, as I've alluded to, for different scenarios. So everybody sees, they might say this is a fire drill and it's in orange as opposed to bright red, whatever those might be. I would rely on Mr. Dietz to give me some ideas of all those different things. A big limitation right now at the high school is a lack of the zoning functionality. So this is just the first floor plan of the high school drawn up there, and I highlighted a couple different zones. So with a software-based platform, such as what we would pursue here, we'd have an infinite number of zones available to us. So you could have bells that only ring in the cafeteria so that students know it's time to clean up your tables and get ready because the bell to go back to class is about to ring. But those bells don't have to ring in every single classroom. You could have bells that ring in classrooms that have A lunch but don't ring every other room. Bells that ring in B lunch but don't ring every other room. Examples like that. You could have bells that only ring in your common areas, such as your hallways, your gymnasium, the auditorium, or you could have bells that don't ring those areas. So, for example, we're doing access testing in Convocation Hall over the next couple of days at the high school. If we don't want bells to ring in that room, we can exclude them from there so it doesn't disturb those students who are taking that assessment on there. And other examples that we listed here for that. Ring only or indoor bells, outdoor bells, all speakers, etc. And then some additional software capabilities that we want to bring. We want to make it easier for our staff to create and modify bell schedules. Our current software that it is very time consuming and very tedious to create bell schedules. It's hard to describe, but it is a challenge for the administration and their office assistants over there to take care of all of that. We want to be able to integrate it with our access control system and our security camera system. So, for example, if we were to have a forced entry on a particular door, can we alert the people that are in that area that this door was forced open so that they're more vigilant and they know to be prepared for a situation. We want to have connectivity with digital signage so that if we were to send out something over the PA system, we could broadcast it on any digital signage that we have. And a piece that kind of ties in with safety is the ability to use a desktop or a mobile notification. Again, thinking about accessibility, if you have a student who may not have hearing or vision, if we can send a mobile notification that pops up on their device, then their screen assistive technology is going to relay that information to them, so even they're included in that. Or if there are staff members who are in an office and they don't necessarily have a PA speaker, if they can get that notification on their device. The ability to hit pre-recorded messaging, as we alluded to, and then also the ability to broadcast to multiple sites. So if we needed to send something to all of the buildings that are on the Nestville campus, or if we needed to send a notification to all of the buildings that are south of Route 30 or whatever the example might be, but we would be able to hit multiple sites with a single broadcast message from the superintendent, whatever the situation might be. So some projections on that. Our preliminary total estimate, somewhere between $900,000 and $1 million. We have one proposal that we got over a year ago, which is what informed this budgetary number. So we know that number is good. That included all of the installation, all of the wiring, all of the software licensing, everything, endpoint from start to finish for the entire project. We have $212,681 allocated for us through the PCCD grant. We just have to host the competitive bid process approved by PDE for us to receive those funds. And then we would currently anticipate spending whatever that difference is, somewhere around $700,000 out of capital reserve and or fund balance. We would defer to Mrs. Robbins' expertise on where that would come from at that time. However, that we would, at the same time, we would be actively pursuing additional grant funding opportunities. So, for example, last year, the Department of Justice, their COPS program, Community-Oriented Policing Services, they had a school violence prevention program grant that was worth up to the neighborhood of $500,000 per institution. That grant window was in June. So, like, we might have an opportunity in June to get another $500,000 in that grant. We did not have the ability to apply for that grant at this time last year because we didn't have a state budget. We didn't know what our PCCD funding was going to be. There were a number of reasons for our not applying for that budget, for that grant at that time, but anticipating to apply when we had a project that we definitely wanted to pursue on that. Mr. Dietz says he's happy to help me write that grant. So then our recommended action tonight is strictly asking you to authorize us to seek those bid proposals. We're not asking you to approve the purchase of anything. We would put together our bid specifications. We would get those proposals back. We would evaluate those proposals, and then we would bring them to you with an explanation of here's the proposal that we're recommending and why we're recommending it. Here are the others that we received alongside of it and why we're not recommending those. And so that's what we're seeking tonight is we'll seek your approval at the voting meeting to authorize us to make those competitive bid proposals and then bring that project back to you at a later time for completion over the summer of 2026. And we'll take any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Lyons. We can add this to the list of issues impacted by the dysfunction of a budget process in Harrisburg last year. So thank you for setting this up for us moving forward. Any questions from my colleagues? Ms. Lamb.
I have a couple of questions. First of all, thank you for the presentation. What is the expected lifespan of the major components?
We would expect all of these items to have a minimum service life of 10 years. Minimum service life. Obviously, our current PA system, people don't move speakers very often. It's not like they get dropped moving from room to room with that. So it could certainly be longer than that, but we would anticipate in our multi-year planning process a 10-year lifespan as a minimum starting point.
Anyone else?
Well, as a follow-up to that, is there a warranty attached to that you're good for a certain amount of time?
The answer to that will be yes, but I won't be able to tell you what that warranty is until we get the proposals back because each manufacturer, so for example, the Atlas IEDs, they offer different lengths of warranties depending on which product which product line you use. So they might have product lines that are warranted for 10 years and they might have product lines that are warranted for 3 years. So like if you can imagine a speaker that's going in a correctional facility, they probably don't offer as long of a warranty on that just because of the environment, whereas a speaker that's going into a lower incident environment is going to have a longer warranty from that. So just using those as an example, we would be targeting in our RFP though, we would set some minimums on what those products need to offer as far as what warranty they come with. And we've been in conversation with IE13 who uses the Atlas IDs to get some information on that, as well as some other neighboring districts who've done PA system replacements recently to find out what the warranties are in their products that they have and kind of try to split the difference and go down the middle so that we're getting something that could apply to the majority of vendors who might bid on this.
Ms. Woodbury.
Thank you very much for the context you provided, how clear it is about what we've done, what we're doing now, and what we will be doing. You're also helping me learn again and again through your presentations that the better it sounds and the more helpful and useful that you're getting me ready for the price tag to be on a later slide. So thank you for that learning. Is the action item for the high school modernization? It looked like it said the high school. We mentioned like other capabilities of other buildings.
So if you look at the multi-year plan, which I didn't draw any attention to because they're in future years, I drew the attention to the high schools.
Yeah.
But our aim would be to do the high school this coming summer and learn lessons through that process, and then pursue this exact same type of project for some or all or half or some percentage to be determined of the other buildings in the following 2 to 3 years.
So you'll be looking for vendors
phasing them over the course of 2 to 3 years so that we can get everybody onto a single platform and upgrade each of them and then know like, hey, 10 years from now it's the high school, and then 11 years from now we're getting these 3 buildings again, and then 12 years from now, etc.
So the vendor proposals will kind of tell us about their ability to do those things.
Yes.
Okay, thanks very much.
Mr. Bolzar.
I think it would be helpful for everyone to hear because it's not like we would compare and say, hey, we could do this for whatever it is, $1 million, and doing and not doing that means it's free. There's a cost to sitting here allowing the old technology to just keep aging. So, can you give some perspective of really what's the cost that would happen if we just kept on going with our ancient way that we do it?
That would be hard to put into a financial number here on the spot. But what I would say the cost there is becomes safety and operational smoothness in the building. Like to give a very clear example, when we started, like I said, to peel back the layers of this onion, in the MDF of the high school, there's a giant rack that has the amplifier, and then all kinds of speaker wire goes out of that. In that rack, there's also a clock. The clock does not ring the bells. There's also a headphone wire that runs out of that clock into an actual telephone handset. When you hear the bell ringing in the high school, that bell tone is coming from that phone handset. So if there's an issue, somebody calls us and says the bells aren't ringing, right now there could be 8 different reasons why the bell isn't ringing. Maybe they don't have the right bell schedule set because that person's out sick and nobody else knows how to use it. Maybe that telephone power supply died. Maybe the amp isn't working. So we lose time. Teachers lose instructional time with their students because their students don't know when they're supposed to leave one class and when they're supposed to be in another. And there's not a financial cost there, but there's a huge opportunity cost and a huge disruption to quality of life.
I appreciate you bringing forward the lost opportunity cost, all these other things, and what safety and the other things that will come along. Really, that's kind of what I think is informative for everyone to hear, that this investment like this isn't just, hey, I'm just replacing the system. It's so much more than a choice between A or B. So I appreciate that extra detail.
Yeah, I understand the Frankenstein reference better now. Mrs. Hens.
I have a somewhat related question. Even I can hear that the old system is the oldest possible technology. It's ringing from a telephone. But you two work always with the very, very best because you see its opportunities and so forth. My question is there something in between?
So we brought this number
This
to...
looks like it does more than we need.
So that, I mean,
I know.
I would say it doesn't, but we brought this number to you, and we used this number for the budget because, as I said, the Atlas IED speakers are in use at the IU13 conference center and in their what do they call the one in the Mannheim Education Center, the one that used to be the old H.C. Burgard School. So they use those devices in there, and so they use it both in their conference center as well as in their school environment. The software that we used in creating that budgetary proposal is in use at multiple school districts throughout the state of Pennsylvania, and I have a couple of close contacts who've worked with it specifically. So we had this budgetary proposal drawn up by somebody coming and walking through the entire high school building saying, okay, in this room, in these types of rooms, we would use this type of speaker. You would need this many in this hallway because it's X number of feet long. You would need this kind of speaker in the arena because of the high ceiling or this or that. So they spec'd all of that out using these specific speakers. They spec'd out the software based on the number of speakers that we would have, which are your users in the PA system, and then we spec'd out the installation for it to be done in a 1 month window, so that because it takes more human beings to install something in 1 month than it does to do it in 2 months or 3 months. So we spec'd it with a 1 month installation window, and we spec'd it for them doing all electrical and cabling, etc., because that was the most expensive that it could possibly be, the worst or best case scenario, depending on where you're looking at the issue from. But when we put this RFP together, we won't be saying you need to propose 250 Atlas IED speakers and you need to propose 500 licenses of Informacast or this or that. We'll be saying we need IP speakers that do A, B, and C. We need a software that does X, Y, Z. We need installation services in this time frame, etc. So we'll put that proposal together. These proposals, as you may remember when we put out the RFP last year using the PCCD grant to get the Halo environmental sensors, we had presented one budgetary number. The bid proposals came back. I believe they were about $12,000 below what we had estimated and what the initial quote was, because competitive bids are always more value to the end user. So that's what we are hopeful that we'll see a much lower number just because it'll be a competitive bid, but also because we'll be exposed to different product lines and we'll get to learn what the pros and cons of each of them are.
No, I appreciate how thorough your background was in preparing those numbers. I don't know if I always realized that we had quite that accurate number. However, my question is, what we really need is something reliable to ring bells. That's easier to use. So what I'm saying is between that and what I'm going to say, bells and whistles and flashing lights and all, is there something in between there?
Yeah, there may be. So I'll give you an example of why something like this is.
The difference so little that we.
No, it's pretty major. Need why it needs to be like this. I'll give you an example. So, for instance, we got to recall that there was an active shooter near the school building, and I had to make the notification to put the building into a secure lockdown, nobody in or out. Tried to relay it to the principal. Principal's not available. Trying to get to staff, and there's not a way to mass communicate that when it needs to happen. So we're trying to do a holistic approach, looking at ADA accessibility with this too, with the screens to be able to see it, because we do have classrooms where the teacher and students are all hearing impaired. So we have to look at the holistic approach, and sometimes we can do like the cheap method with the bells, but that doesn't give us the need for if we need to make an emergency, such as like a hold, and that could be for medical needs or something like that. So we got to look at the whole total picture. And if we want to do something, we're going to do it right the first time, so we don't spend money throughout those 10 years that we can use that for the total of the lifespan.
Yeah. Ms. Lamb.
That kind of leads to my question. For PA systems, and as with all technology, what happens when power goes out? How quickly can emergency messages be broadcasted, and does it override all restrictions?
So one of the major advantages with an IP-based system, as I said, each individual speaker will connect back into our network switches. All of our network switches are connected to battery backups. Some buildings have a building-wide battery backup. Some buildings have just individual battery backups, like the giant thing sitting on the floor over there that the PA system in this room is plugged into. And so they draw the speakers that I showed there. They draw all of their electricity for their operation through that network connection. It's called Power over Ethernet, or PoE. That power comes from the network switch. The network switch is connected into the battery backup. So in the event that we lose utility power, all of those endpoints will stay on as long as the batteries can last. Most of our batteries will last north of 1 hour. I won't hazard a guess of longer than that, but they're all sized that they should last at least 1 hour in the event of a loss of utility power in that location, at which time we would hope that it would either be restored or that we've made plans, because we're going to have other things that aren't going to work, such as lights, food service, etc. So we wouldn't anticipate any loss of PA system operation in the event of a routine loss of utility power, but in an extended loss of utility power, we certainly could have a loss of functionality, which is the case with our current system as well.
Okay, I think that's it. Any other thoughts or questions? Okay, thank you, Mr. Lyons. Thank you, Mr. Dietz. Okay, so we generally, through these meetings, go about 2 hours max before we call a recess. Brief recess. So we're going to take a 5-minute recess right now so people can take care of themselves.
There might be some symbolism here. It's like elementary for a second.
I know exactly where they are. They're talking to him. Yeah, that's what I was asking because they don't ditch. They don't
Okay, thank you for that. I think we all needed that. Okay. We are on to item 3, which is action for voting meeting for January 22nd, 2026. That's just to say that our actions at that meeting in January will be A, to accept the multi-year plan and grant authorization to develop specifications for 2026 projects, i.e. the multi-year plan. And then also we'll be voting on approving the seeking of competitive bid proposals in service of the PA system that Mr. Lyons and Mr. Dees just presented to us. And so we are on now to item 4, Manheim Township community comments. Residents, taxpayers, district employees, and students are all welcome and encouraged to participate. The board won't engage in discussion, but will provide follow-up if needed. If you'd like to speak, please fill out a commenter's card for the board secretary to collect. Limit your remarks to 5 minutes and share your full name before you begin. Who would like to make comments this evening? Good evening, welcome.
Thank you. Samantha McNally speaking on behalf of the Manheim Township Education Association. Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to begin tonight by recognizing something that represents effective leadership and meaningful collaboration in this district. The on-site employee health clinic is a strategic investment in our people and in the long-term stability of our schools. But the clinic deserves recognition not just for what it is, but for how it came to be. This clinic exists because collaboration was intentional and fostered from the very beginning. Our HR director, Kate Ward, and our chief operating officer, Donna Robbins, made a conscious decision to involve MTEA as a true partner in the process, to tour and learn about other employee health clinics in the region, and to discuss employee health needs. That decision to collaborate meaningfully shaped the success of this initiative. From a financial perspective, the clinic reflects sound stewardship of district resources. It encourages employees to engage in preventive care, reducing healthcare utilization costs over time. But the more important return on investment is human. A healthier staff, fewer absences, greater stability, and educators who can consistently show up for students. The clinic also plays a critical role in staff retention. At a time when districts across Pennsylvania are struggling to retain experienced educators and support staff, this district chose to invest in the people who already serve its students. Retention does not come from slogans or one-off gestures. It comes from systems that respect employees and recognize that working conditions are student learning conditions. And this is where the broader lesson cannot be ignored. This success was not just about personalities, it was about process. When employees are treated as partners, when professional expertise is respected, And when collaboration is embedded from the start, the district benefits. When those elements are missing, decisions become vulnerable to confusion, to conflict, and to preventable risk. As the board looks ahead to future decisions, particularly those involving staff and district finances, this clinic stands as a clear model. Collaboration is not slower, exclusion is. Collaboration is not risky, disengagement is. Good processes don't just build better programs, they build trust, stability, and shared ownership of outcomes. Tonight, we want to express appreciation for the leadership shown by Kate Ward and Donna Robbins, and for the process that is delivering measurable benefits for our teachers and the district. So, as you hear from our members this evening, we ask that you recognize this clinic for what it truly represents, a clear blueprint for how this district must move forward if excellence is the goal. Thank you.
Good evening. Welcome.
Hi, good evening. My name is Olivia Bro, and I'm an elementary teacher in the district. As an elementary teacher, I'm exposed to sticky hands, runny noses, soggy shoelaces, and coughing fits directly into my face. Like a lot of teachers, our students, our families, and our classrooms come first. Often, our own health ends up at the bottom of the list, especially during business times like Parent-Teacher Conference Week. That's what happened to me. At the first sign of illness I pushed through, I was fine, I went on, until I lost my voice. Knowing I had 3 more days of teaching and 2 days of back-to-back conferences made me more than worried. I knew I wasn't going to be able to get in to see my primary care physician, so at the urging of a colleague, I downloaded the Spruce app. I had been hesitant at first to use the HealthWorks because I have such a good working relationship with my primary care physician. Upon downloading the app, I was immediately connected with a PA from HealthWorks who was able to schedule me to visit that night, the very last appointment of the day, to be swabbed and checked out. This visit was so smooth, I was in, out, and on my way home in 20 minutes. HealthWorks followed up with my results and then even checked in later that week to see if my symptoms subsided or if I needed to be seen again. Because of HealthWorks, I was able to get answers quickly, take care of my health responsibly, and still show up for my students and families during an important week. This experience showed me that the on-site clinic is not just a convenience. It's a vital support system for staff. It allows educators to address health concerns early, reduce their time away from classrooms, and ultimately help us all remain present, effective, and healthy for our students and our families. I'm grateful this resource is available to us, and I hope it continues to be supported for the well-being of our entire school community. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Welcome.
Hi, I'm Kristen Reitner, and I teach 3rd grade at Booker. I am here to thank you for our on-site HealthWorks clinic. I'm also in the job where I get multiple hugs each day, along with people sitting close to me and sharing their dreams, especially when they don't feel well. Being present in the classroom as a teacher and staying healthy helps our students succeed. The clinic's convenient location and stock of basic medications allow staff to miss less hours of the school day and to return to health, and we can get an appointment the same day. In addition, the staff and the HealthWorks people advocate for us and help with preventative treatment rather than just curative care. And that's a big piece for us. This is important and it keeps the staff in the building so we can focus on nurturing and challenging our students for success. Thank you for supporting the on-site clinic. Union and teachers and the board support. Thank you. You have created time and money saving resources that is greatly appreciated. On the way in, I talked to a colleague and she said, I love it. I'm obsessed with the care that Christy Galbraith gives. And I agree. I've been teaching here since 1997. I'm just wondering where it's been all this time. Thank you.
Welcome. Thank you.
Sorry, I'm really short. Good evening, members of the board, administrators, and members of our school community. My name is Christy Means, and I'm a librarian at Booker and Brecht Elementary. As an elementary school librarian, I have the unique privilege of working across grade levels, content areas, and buildings. Because of this vantage point, I see firsthand how leadership decisions not only shape just our curriculum implementation, but daily learning experiences for our students. Tonight I'd like to take a moment to share my gratitude for the support of our library program and to recognize several leaders whose work directly strengthens teaching, learning, and community in our elementary schools and libraries. I want to begin by acknowledging Dr. Sharon Schaefer and our elementary principals for their continued support of our libraries and its role in both current and upcoming curriculum. When the library is viewed not only as a place, but a shared instructional resource center, it becomes a powerful extension of the classroom. That belief is evident in the way our leaders encourage the use of library materials, digital resource platforms, and our expertise of our librarians to support curriculum goals in our district. I have had the opportunity this year to serve on 2 curriculum teams supported by Sharon's leadership and her tireless, thoughtful work in the curriculum review cycle. The depth of her work, especially as we prepare for new state standards, does not go unnoticed. Her leadership in navigating the upcoming workforce standards and new health standards reflects a deep understanding of what our students need to be successful both now and in the future. These standards call for critical thinking, collaboration, media literacy, and responsible decision making, skills that align naturally with what is already occurring in our school libraries every single day. Sharon's collaboration with the curriculum teams has led to a vision for our district that ensures a new curriculum is not just compliant, but meaningful, intentional, student-centered, and rooted in our library collections. I'd also like to recognize my principals, Dr. Andy Martin and Mrs. Amanda Munson, and by extension, all of the elementary school principals, as educational leaders who are deeply committed to building communities of learning rooted in acceptance, inclusion, and excellence. Their passion shows not only in what is taught in our schools, but how learning communities are formed, sustained in our buildings, and how the library is becoming the root of those things. Dr. Martin brings this commitment to life at Booker with Booker Family Meetings, where students are given a voice, relationships are strengthened, and a true sense of belonging is cultivated. These moments matter. They create a family-like atmosphere for the Booker Bears where our students feel safe, valued, and part of a community. Mrs. Munson also does this in her own unique and inspiring approach through homeroom buddies and curriculum pilot programs at Brecht this year. By encouraging cross-grade connections and innovative instructional practices, she's fostering collaboration, leadership, and curiosity among both our staff and our students. These experiences are not only enriching learning, but also model what it is to be part of a supportive, forward-thinking school community. From the library perspective, these leadership practices matter deeply. They create schools where curiosity is encouraged, diverse practices and perspectives are welcomed, and learning extends beyond a textbook. They allow the library to function as a central hub to support literacy, inquiry, creativity, and connection across our elementary schools. I am so grateful to work alongside leaders who value collaboration, who understand the power of a strong curriculum, a robust library collection, and building relationships with our students through literature. Leaders who recognize the library as an essential partner in student learning. Leaders who know the power of a library collection and how they can be used to enhance each student's individual learning, interest, and passion. Thank all of you, in addition, for your support, your vision, and your dedication to our students. Thank you for all you have done to ensure that our library collections are a place where every child can find themselves in a book.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Mark Diener. I live in Bloomingdale Development. I wanted to give a shout out to Kayla Atterbury. Last school board meeting, she did a great job. I think she's a high school Manhattan Township senior. Thought she did a really good job explaining why 7th graders should not have access to sexually explicit books or pornographic imagery. There's another young lady named Megan who also had some concerns about some of the material in books. Her name is Megan, and it's Megan's story, Lost in the Pages. This is a transcription of a video that she did. The time I really started to love reading was probably kindergarten. and I just love the Sam I Am books. I love books because it's just like an adventure, an escape, another opportunity, and an experience. I lived all over Cache Valley, elementary school. That's when COVID started, and COVID made it so I had online school for a while. Through online school, I started reading a bit more, books that were descriptive in nature. When I went to Logan Middle School, that's when it really got worse. It was more open, more readily accessible, and it was normalized. I hadn't had a phone until this year. February 14th is when I got it. The stuff that I accessed online was a lot more roses and happy, like romance books, maybe kissing, but it wasn't descriptive about explicit sex. The books that I had found and had been recommended were definitely that, explicit sex. When I started reading books like that, I started reading more because it was more open in middle school. It piqued my interest, and I started to read more like that, probably because I was just beginning to figure out human nature. My hormones were beginning to change. I was starting to get my period, and I also am really good at learning. I love to learn. I found everything I could on it, and I got heavily into that stuff. It became an addiction. I had to read something like that, or I didn't get that fix of dopamine, whatever you want to call it. It progressively got worse because after I found out what it was and what they do, basically I felt like I needed that connection with someone. So I went online and I chatted with pretty much pedophiles and a whole bunch of other people just trying to find that connection. I put myself and my family at risk. I acted like the character in my book, like life was the book for me. In my mental view, I was struggling so badly, and I just didn't completely understand it. I was struggling so badly, and that was an escape. That was like the only thing that would make me happy. I was a super extroverted kid, but the more I read this, the more I thought, I don't need friends. I just need this connection. So I started distancing myself, not only from friends. I grew to hate myself. I grew to hate others. I hated my mother. I hated my sister. I hated everyone. As it continued to get worse, I started lying more and hiding things more. I had to go to juvie a few times because of how bad my relationship with my mother was. It definitely stemmed from normal romance because I loved that love connection that was stated in books, which can really be beautiful. But then it went into something more explicit, and the explicit content definitely brought me to that point. This necklace is a safety pin with a chain. It's a suicide prevention necklace, and it's a promise to stay alive. It's a safety pin. People literally make brain neurons that connect to the thought. As a kid, if you read that, you can't get it out of your head. You just can't close the book and forget about it. It ingrains itself in your brain, and it will be there forever. You can't get that innocence back, and you will not be able to unsee those words. So when people say that you can just close the book if you don't like what you're reading, I heavily disagree. Because if you're given that book in the first place, you're going to read it. And if you read it, you have that in your head. If it's in schools, it's affecting people that it's not helping, and they're being suggested it. So it's being normalized by teachers, by librarians, by their peers. So it just recirculates into teenagers, and it's given over and over until they are eventually numb to it and have not been able to peel back that film that literally covers their every sense of it. They can't see what's right and what's wrong. It's like putting a blindfold over someone and expecting them to run. The point isn't about romance or a cute love story anymore. It's about getting your reader in that aroused state. That shouldn't be in children's libraries. Why let schools have this on the off chance that it'll help someone when in actuality it is more harmful than it is helpful? I think that if the teacher hadn't initially recommended that author, I wouldn't have seen it as quite so normal. I don't think the librarian even knew how much of a butterfly that would be. Thanks for your time.
Anyone else like to give comment? Okay. Seeing none, that brings us to adjournment. Is there a motion to adjourn? So, Mr. Boldazar, is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Rivera, I got you. Our next scheduled board meeting is Thursday, January 15th, 2026 at 6 p.m. here in the district office.
Meetings will be live streamed and recorded for viewing purposes. Thank you to all Mainline Township staff, administrators, and volunteers for your dedication to our students and community. Excuse me, we're not quite done yet. Thank you. Thank you. All in favor of adjournment, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries. Now we are adjourned. Good night. Thank you for coming.